So thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Sharon Hughes and I'm the Leadership Academy Manager for The Wheel. And this morning's event is known as what we call the Breakfast Clubs. So it's on leadership and authenticity. So the Breakfast Clubs are the leadership event series run by the Leadership Academy, brought to you by The Wheel, Ireland's Association for the Community, Voluntary, Charitable and Social Enterprise sector. And the Academy is a place for leaders in our sector at any and all stages of their own leadership journeys to take the next step applicable to them. And the Breakfast Clubs are designed to help you to take some time out of your day and to have a think about some of the bigger issues and connect with other people in the sector. So please note the event is being recorded. And if you do take some pictures, if you wouldn't mind tagging us and Cope Galway, we'd really appreciate that as well. And we would like to thank our lovely hosts Ellie and Michael in Cope Galway for being phenomenal hosts, and our food is provided by Link Social Enterprise as well, which is really, really nice. They're good pastries. Be disappointed now if you came the whole way to Galway and you didn't get good food. We were talking about that this morning. So thank you so much for having us this morning. So to the topic of the morning, so authentic leadership is one of those lovely buzzwords that we hear. Can everybody hear okay? Yeah, we're good. Okay, so just keep it up a notch. So it suggests that genuine leaders who are self-aware and fully transparent with their teams and whose actions are aligned with their values. It's great in theory, but how do we actually live those values on the ground? So, are you naturally authentic or do you have to work at it? How do we balance vulnerability and authority? And how can we be consistent with our authenticity? So I don't know, but I found people who do. So this morning we're joined by two leaders from within our sector. So I insist on reading the bios because one thing I find that we always do in our sector is minimise the impact on the work that we've done. So I think it's important that we actually own our lovely wins. So Bridget Kelly is the first Traveller woman to be the National Traveller Policy Coordinator for Traveller Employment and Enterprise with the Irish Traveller Movement. In this role, she leads policy development and advocacy to improve employment and enterprise opportunities for travellers, working closely with stakeholders at both national and community levels. Bridget previously managed the Traveller Apprenticeship Incentivisation Programme and continues to provide oversight and strategic guidance to its ongoing work. She has also completed several pieces of research with a strong focus on labour market equality and addressing the systemic barriers that travellers face in accessing meaningful employment. Bridget is passionate about creating pathways to promote fairness, opportunity and inclusion for the traveller community and all in the world of work. So, very casually, thanks for joining us, Bridget. And Derval Lawless to my left is the Chief Executive Officer of AINTOS, the National Adult Learning Network. Derval is a passionate advocate and educator who has taught in community, further and higher education. Derval is the Vice President of the European Association for the Education of Adults and a board member of Solace and D8 Community Education Centre. In 2022, she received a DCU Alumni Award and she has previously been shortlisted for the Excellence in Academic Teaching. She believes that adult learning is the greatest tool for creating positive social change. So they are our two guests this morning. Enough out of me, it's the guests that you came to see. So who will we say? I'll start Derval, okay. See that little Bridget's like she's starting over that side, yeah. Okay, so could you begin by introducing yourself in your own words and your own background and how you got into the role that you're in currently?
Okay, good morning everybody. Thank you so much for having us and taking the time to come today. So I am working in an organisation that I think really represents a lot of diverse and marginalised communities, people who've been through education maybe and didn't have positive school experiences or maybe didn't get the space and the environment that they needed at the time. And for me, why I feel that's so relevant in the job that I am now is because I'm one of those people. So I would have grown up lone parent household, working class community, social housing, addiction, imprisonment, lots of those things were big parts of my family life. And I suppose they would have been things that kind of, would have impacted you when you thought about your future. Wouldn't have done very well in school because very bad memory. Turned out I have ADHD and dyscalculia, maths, numbers go all over the shop. But also I was always in trouble. I was always shouting, messing, having a laugh, tried to be the class clown. So didn't know what I was going to do. Wanted to be an actress. Used to be like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. I'm going to be an actress. Never turned out to be an actress. But,
yes.
Yeah, well, you never know. If anybody wants to hire me. But yeah, I think then I kind of fell into education in a weird way, which I'm really happy about. So I remember when I finished school, I was like, what am I going to do? And I did this further education course in education and training, and I was just sitting there and I was like, oh wow, oh God, maybe I'm not stupid. This kind of makes sense to me, because I was doing psychology, sociology, philosophy, and things like that, and all of a sudden I was learning about theories, and I was able to like see the world in a different way and understand it. And I kind of realized that my brain just worked differently, that I was really good at like deconstructing things and thinking about things in a bigger picture way. But if you asked me to remember the name of the hotel I stayed in last night, gone. So I was never good at rote learning, any of that memory-based stuff. And yeah, so I did that course and was like, geez, I actually really like this. And then it was a pathway program into DCU to do the degree in education training, and I just loved it. And it was mad, because I'd say any of the teachers who had me in school, like, they've never invited me back to speak, they hate me. They were probably like, she's not even going to end up having a job, never mind doing nothing else. But it was like, I realised as well, like, education, especially adult education, has been developed from social justice movements. So working class movements, feminist movements, those sorts of areas where people went, we deserve change, we deserve to have a society that's more inclusive, we deserve to have something that, looks at people's strengths. And I just loved that. It gave me such passion and such drive. And I think that that's been really nice for me, that I kind of fell into this space, fell in love with it, and realised that like my obsession with social justice, which apparently is an ADHD thing as well, I'm like, that's wrong, I can't do that. Also really fitted this, because I was like, here's something that I can focus on, where I can try to help be part of a movement to create social change, and do it in a way that's really like proactive. And I think it's lovely, because there's so many people like that who don't think they're smart, they don't think they're good enough, they don't think they deserve to be in any room, or when they go into fancy places. And what's amazing is when you're working with people who go through this adult learning journey, you just see them blossom, and they realise, I actually am smart, I actually am good enough, and I do deserve to be here. And I see that again and again and again, and I swear to God, it just like, it ignites your fire in you. It's amazing.
So you started working in?
So started working in, after college, did a master's, then I started tutoring, and I was working in Exchange House Ireland, which is a national traveller service provider, and I was running education programmes there, doing then European projects, getting to travel around Europe, which was really cool, and working with different communities. And then I started teaching in higher education, loved that as well. Same thing again, that fear comes back. I was standing at the top of the room and I couldn't even pronounce half the words. I was like, what's a hypothalamus? What the hell is that? Like, just going, oh, and just kind of fell in love more with the teaching. I was teaching in Marino Institute of Education, DCU. And then where else? Then I went on to Aintus, where I work now, and that was around managing European projects. They were all education based. And then I went for the head of advocacy job, which I was terrified about. I was like, I can't do that. And then the next thing I became CEO, and I was like, what am I doing here? I'm still going, what am I doing here?
We don't appreciate that kind of talk.
No. We are proud, confident women.
Yes, we are proud, confident women, yes. This is one of the reasons I insist on reading the bios. People are like, oh my God, don't read my bio. And I'm like, you did all of that work, but yeah, what a journey. Bridget, what about you? Let the people know.
Again, just like to say thanks very much, Sharon, and thanks to everyone for being here today. Absolutely delighted to be here today alongside Jervil, this amazing, confident woman here, along with many women in the room as well. So basically, I'm a traveller woman, and I work with the Irish Traveller Movement at the moment, and I'm the National Traveller Policy Employment Coordinator there. And I suppose for me, how it all came about for myself, being a member of the traveller community, I bring my own lived experience. I also bring my own, my own knowledge and my own skill, and I bring, I want to bring about change for my community. As a traveller woman myself, I would have experienced, racism, discrimination, in particular when it comes to access and services around housing, accommodation, health, education, and employment in particular. And, I see it as well within my own community still today, that the community are still experiencing discrimination and racism when it comes to access and employment and education opportunities as well. So for me, it all came about going back a long time ago. I suppose I left school at a young age. I was the eldest of 8 in the family, and just done first week in the second year of school, and then I left school, got married young, and then with the support of my husband, then I did go back to education, because I felt like, in order to succeed in life, you do need your education, and it's key and it is important. And I wanted to be, set an example for my own children as well. However, as I said, there was challenges and barriers along the way, but you just have to learn to try and overcome these challenges and barriers with the relevant supports in place. In particular around the travel organisations locally, they were a great support to myself at the time. And so anyway, as part of that, I took up courses at the time. They were called FOSS, SOLAS, VEC. So took up some training courses there, and then progressed on then to taking up employment with the local travel organisation, Galway Travel Movement at the time. And along with that, like many women in society, you have your rearing a family, and then you have the extra layers then, in particular when you're a traveller woman, being a woman, being a traveller, and being a traveller woman, so you have the extra layers then on top of that as well, experiencing discrimination and all that. But anyway, I still got on with it and still been strong and resilient. And through the work and support of the Galway Travel Movement at the time, they had I started off in a community employment scheme, and excuse me, and then through that then I'd done my diploma in community development, and then kind of progressed on then into community development work then as well. So and then I became a community development worker, and then I along with many other colleagues as well within the Galway Travel Movement, I actually went back to college. I was never, being honest with you, and I was saying this to the lecturers at the time, I always passed the college, but I never went into the college, and what my peers were saying to me at the time, Bridget, the college is there for everybody. It's about claiming the space, it's about being in there, So I have to say, the lecturers in the college at the time were very supportive, went in anyway, and along with many of my peers at the time, members of the travel community as well, went in and done my degree in community youth and family studies, along with rearing my family as well, like many other women as well. But anyway, done my degree and graduated there 3 years ago in NUI Galway. I have my degree in community youth and family studies. I was then deputy coordinator of the Galway Travel Movement at the time, done a lot of community work. I've done a lot of advocacy work for members of the travel community. I still do it, but in housing accommodation and more broader at a local level. And then I always had a passion then around policy work. I wanted to get more involved around policy advocacy work. At a local level, there was more grassroots out on the ground, meeting the community, and that really helped me build my knowledge and my experience as well. But anyway, I wanted to get more involved in the policy work. And a job came up with the National Travel Women's Forum at the time, and I applied for the role, and GTM were a bit disappointed at the time, I'm not going to lie, but I just wanted to move on and progress and try something new, so I did. So I took up a role with the National Travel Women's Forum, policy, advocacy work, done a lot of work, advocacy work around, advocating at government department levels around travel for traveller women, around employment, education, and so on. And then what happened was then another position came up then with the Irish Traveller Movement as a manager of the Traveller Apprenticeship Incentivisation Programme. And I'm not going to lie, I was a bit hesitant because I didn't feel like I was able or would be able for the role, even though I was, deputy coordinator of the Galway Travel Movement. But anyway, again, with the support and from my family, they said, why don't you go for it? I did apply and I was successful, and I was the manager for a year and a half. And again, I learned a lot through the job, a lot of support as well from community members, and again, pushing for change for the community at a policy level, trying to get better outcomes, in particular when it came to education, encouraging members of the traveller community, that education is there for you. So the Traveller Apprenticeship Incentivisation Programme was a huge piece of work that I was involved in and still involved in. But again, working with the community, giving them information around the apprenticeship programs that's available in their area, also supporting them financially and advocating as well for better educational apprenticeships or educational programs to be developed for members of the travel community, and then pathways onto employment. I then, my manager then at the time was finishing up, and so I applied for his role, and now I'm currently in the role that I'm in now. So again, as I said, for me, it's all about I still have oversight to the Traveller Apprenticeship Programme. I still advocate that to members of the community, that education is important, but I'm also advocating as well at a policy level to the government departments to say that, the likes of apprenticeships, there needs to be more educational opportunities for members of the traveller community. We need to look at the challenges and barriers the travellers experience. They need to put in mechanisms in place.
We're here to talk about you.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I have this all of the time. Yeah, I know. If you put a woman from our sector on a stage, she will immediately start telling you about who she is advocating for and why she is. And we will do that at the break, grab her for coffee and ask her all about it. What a journey. And I actually hadn't twigged the importance of the adult education. Yeah. So sorry for interrupting you, but we're here to talk about you and your leadership journey, which was phenomenal. But I'm going to just go back to you, Dermot. So when we talk about authentic leadership, so you can see why I nominated the two women as authentic leaders. They are very, very, you're very in your space and you're both exactly who you are. There's no, what you see here is exactly what you'll see at coffee, and it's exactly what you see if you bump into them. So to you, what does authentic leadership mean?
I was thinking, even just there a second ago, and you were saying, no, you're meant to be who you are and don't be holding back. But I actually think that that's part of it. A lot of people end up in positions of power as leaders who shouldn't be there because they want to be in a position of power or leadership. And I kind of think that that's nearly a bad marker. I'm like, if you really want that, you probably shouldn't apply for that. To me, authentic leadership is you believe in something. You believe in a movement, you believe in social change, you believe in helping a community, and you want to be a leader for the right reasons. And you're being authentic to that cause or that issue and who you are as a person. And when I was looking back through the notes that you'd sent us, Sharon, there was one thing that really struck me as well, and it was about that self-awareness. I'd always say, if you haven't been to therapy, go to therapy. It's very important. But there's so much need for us all to be aware of who we are, why we are the way we are, because of the lives we've lived, because of the friends we have, the people we've been around, the trauma we've been through, or whatever it is. And I think that that's a big part of it, of kind of understanding yourself. And I remember my predecessor in Aintus giving me advice as well, and she was saying, you're not going to be good at this job unless you really, and she was saying this in a nice way now, she was like, the best thing that you can do is figure out who you are and be your best self. Trying to come to that level of emotional maturity, of calm, of trying to know that you're in a solid space so that you can be there for other people. Because if you're still bubbling over with stuff, that's going to cause harm to the people around you, and you have such a responsibility as a leader to make sure that you don't harm other people, because you can unintentionally say things or behave in ways that you might not even realise, and that could make someone feel insecure or put them down. So I think being authentic is a whole combination of things, but it's doing it because you actually believe in something that you want to lead on and help others, and you want to help other people to grow. Being authentic to the community and the family and the history of who you are as a person, and then also being mindful and self-aware that when you're going forward, that you are going to make mistakes, you are going to mess up, but you acknowledge that and you apologise for it, you learn and you grow from it, and that you're trying to bring people with you, because a leader is not someone who walks on ahead and says, this is my agenda. No, a leader is someone who comes with a community of people, and you drive each other forward.
Yeah. And what about you, Bridget? How do you...
I suppose authentic to me is about, it's not about leaving yourself at the door, it's about being, your full self. I think that's important. And I also think as well, it's the lived experience as well, like what you said, Derval, the lived experience, and also, been there, you shouldn't have to change your identity. It's about being true to your values, it's about being consistent, it's about being confident, and it's about being, being yourself, really. No one should have to change their identity, or no one should have to tone down their voice, or, no one should have to dress in a different way or appear in a different way. I think it's important. Authentic to me is about being your full self. And, again, it's about bringing the community along with you as well. A true leader is not about the leader themselves, like what you said, Deborah, it's about bringing the community along with you as well. So for me, that's what authentic would be.
And it's easy to say that. I think for me, a lot of that comes with age, whichever. Because you don't start, at the start, you're you see this cookie cooker version of leaders, and you think, well, I have to fit into that. So how would you say over time, how has that evolved for you? That different, like, was it always like that, or was it different, and this is where you've landed?
I suppose at the start for me, like, you know, there was a time where I kind of was, you know, going into spaces where I felt like maybe I need to tone my voice down. Do I, you know, need to dress differently? You know, do I need to change my wording, or do I need to speak differently? And, you know, there was a time where I was a little bit like that, but then I was saying, like, sure, why should I have to change? Why should I have to change in order to fit in when I was actually born to stand out? So I just be myself when I'm in these spaces there. You know, look, people can accept me for who I am. I'm not going to change who I am for anybody, and I never have. So I just like to be true to myself as a genuine person, you know, trying to get change for the community and for others as well. Like, so I just think it's important. No one should have to change their identity, and but as I said, there was a time, and through time, then, you know, you build on that. And as I said, my confidence has grown so much, and I just be myself. And as I said, if people don't like me, that's fine. People likes me, that's fine. But I'm not going to change in order to fit in when I'm actually born to stand out. That's for me.
I feel like that's, you know, one of those cutouts that you put on the wall. Yeah, that we get it. But can I just ask, like, that you said that your confidence has grown to be, and it's interesting that you need confidence to be who you were when you started, for want of a better description. What do you think was the thing? Is it time? Is it experience? Is it education? Like, don't mean to put you on the spot.
I think it's experience, and I think it's time, and it's the way sometimes, you know, people make you feel as well. You know what I mean? And I think it's what you've been through in life as well, you know, that helps you to be strong. You have to find the inner strength as well, like, because you can't let things get you down. So I know that's easier said than done, and, you know, people will, you know, people might say things, or, you know, like, for example, for myself, you know, sometimes even saying that I'm a member of the tribal community and going into some spaces, some people then will be judgmental. They have their own perspectives around, you know, tribal women, and, you know, has this tribal woman the ability to do her job, you know, those types of, but look, I just, and then I've been honest with you, sometimes as well, I felt that I had to prove myself more as well in certain positions, like, not in the role I'm in now, but in the past, I would have felt like that I had to prove myself even more, where, you know, no one should have to do that because I've been a member of the tribal community. But as I said, through time and through experience, I've been strong and resilient, because in the community that I'm in and what we experience on a daily basis, you have to be resilient, you have to be strong. And that's what carries me through the role and the work I do.
That's amazing. What about you? What do you feel did you try to? We've actually talked about how we tried masking and we were both really bad at it.
Even when I was doing my master's, like, at the time I really wanted to dye my hair and get a nose ring and all this, and I was like, I can't go into school doing research if I look this way, which now I'm like, that's ridiculous, like. And I feel like I've actually probably started dressing a bit more out there now that I'm, like, turning 40 this year, and I'm like, I don't care. But I felt at the time that you would see these people in positions of jobs as leaders, as CEOs or managers or whatever, and they would, for the most part, behave a certain way, they would talk a certain way, they would act a certain way, so you feel like, oh, I have to behave like that to be in that job. And I just don't think it's true. And I think if you are lucky enough to be, like, from a community where there is underrepresentation and you end up having a seat at the table, you're not actually going to bring people in with you or open that door for other people if you're telling them they have to change to come into the room, because that's not authenticity at all. And I think over time I realised that every time I tried to behave in a way that wasn't me, I would just feel uncomfortable. I felt like I wasn't in my own body. And then bit by bit and it probably comes out naturally, and then you realise, no, that actually worked well. Like, so often I think we think, oh, being professional is a certain way, but it's like, no, that's the people who've been in these positions of privilege for so long that they've told us that's the mannerism that you should have, that's how you should dress. But it's not that's just their normalized behaviors and that's how we should be. But actually, you can be professional and good at your job and still dress a bit differently. You could have your hoopy earrings in, which I love to do. You could have runners on, you could be cursing. They're not necessarily unprofessional things. If you're doing your job well and you're good at it, that's who you are. And I'm not saying that you have to dress in a certain way or whatever it is, but being authentic and being true to yourself isn't trying to behave like someone else because that's how they behave. Like, I think, say, for example, like, if you're from a community where Humor is a big part of who you are. Like, I can't sit in a room without cracking jokes because I'm like, geez, these people are a bit serious, aren't they? And I could be in the most serious room with ministers and I'll be like, bam, here's a joke. And they'll be like, oh, Jesus. Because that's just who I am. And I'm like, okay, I feel like things have settled now. We can get on with this. And like not being afraid to be a little bit personal at times, or be passionate or be angry, because you're being true to yourself. And if you're sitting in that room at a table about an issue like accommodation or discrimination or whatever it is, you probably are angry about the issue. So show them that you're angry. But you can do it in a respectful and professional way, but you're still being authentic to yourself and the values that you have. Yeah. So I think, it kind of comes over time or in different ways, and like that mindfulness of who you are and who you're not, and kind of feeling what feels right and what doesn't. I'm not saying it's always perfect. Sometimes you know that people are not going to be comfortable with you being a little bit different and you have to do thing, but for the most part I think you try to just be yourself.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that there's a whole swathe of new people accessing leadership that like I hear what you're saying. I totally agree with you on, fashion and what is, especially even like after COVID. I remember I had worked in a university, and when I left everyone was wearing 3-piece suits, and when I came back it was all jeans and blazers. And I was like, but like there's been so much societal shift, so it's like leadership as a whole has been done differently. Like there is no pattern for it to follow for it anymore. What do you think is the biggest value to you of being authentic in your leadership?
I think it gives you the sustainability to keep going forward. If you are trying to be someone that you're not, you're going to fail and you're going to drop. I think if you're able to stay true to yourself within, that certain capacity, it just allows you to be who you are. Because when you're going home at night time, you've had to make decisions, you've had to talk to people about things, you might have had challenging conversations. And I feel like you could go home and feel ashamed and embarrassed because you're not sure what you said was the authentic thing or the right thing. But if you've tried to align to your values as much as possible and be true to yourself and be true to the cause that you're focused on, that will allow you to sustain your energy and kind of like yourself and to keep going. Because otherwise I just think you're setting yourself up to fail.
Yeah, it kind of leads into that resilience thing, doesn't it? Like that, it's an extra job, all the masking, isn't it? It's extra work. What about you? What do you think is the biggest benefit of?
I think, as I said earlier, I don't think you should have to change your identity for anyone, do you know what I mean? So for me, it's about being true to myself and being yourself, you know what I mean? Being real and, trying to push for the change. And not being afraid to challenge things either as well, like what you said there, Derval, sitting at tables in particular where there's decisions being made around your community, so it's not being afraid to challenge things either. But for me, it's about being true to yourself, being real and natural and, focus on, the cause and what you're there trying to do within your role as well. So that would be for me. Yeah, stay focused, yeah.
Yeah, and what about, it's risky. It is risky because it's risky at two levels. It's risky externally because, to outside, because you can go down wrong. It can be like your own professional, but it's also risky because it's a line between authentic and oversharing and working with other people. And I know I've spoken to a lot of people about this, about the maintaining boundaries with staff and stuff like that. So do you have any thoughts on the risk to it?
Yeah, I think in two different ways. One, say for me in education, right, like from an NGO perspective, we're talking about building confidence, self-esteem, helping people to feel part of a community, improved mental health, someone thriving in themselves as a person. And all of that, I think, naturally leads to being able to apply for jobs, to doing well in education, because a healthy, happy person can thrive. But everything at the moment is all about the economy and skills. And I'm forever sitting in these meetings where I have to find the balance. If I keep going on about the hard stuff, people go, oh, here's this hippie again, Jesus Christ. No, we actually need to talk about the benefits for the economy. How much is this going to cost? So sometimes I find that hard because you're like, I can't go too far the other way or they're not going to listen to me, and then I've lost the audience and that damages the people I'm here to represent. But I'm also not going too far in this direction because that's just not who I am or who we are as an organisation. So sometimes I think it's like trying to gauge who is it that you're talking to, how much can you say that you get their attention by giving them a bit of their own messaging, and then bam, in with something from your from your own kind of experience and what you want to get there, and trying to couple those things. So that sometimes from a policy perspective and an advocacy perspective can be a challenge, and it's not always perfect, but you're trying to balance that. And then in that leadership piece with the vulnerability, that is hard. And I think I'm 4 years in this job this summer, and it's one of those things where I've been trying to learn and pull back and grow, because I don't want to be someone who's extremely boundaried. It's not who I am as a person. I'm an oversharer. But I also want to be able to have genuine relationships and friendships. You don't get to have that completely anymore when you're the boss, but I really like my colleagues, and I really admire them. They're really smart, funny, talented, incredible people. And I want to be able to have a laugh with them. But you can't do that if you're very boundaried. You never share anything personal, and you don't open up to them and say, oh, I'm having a bad day, or I don't know if I did that well, or what did you think? Showing them vulnerability. You obviously have to have some boundaries anyway, but showing them vulnerability also helps them to see that you're human, that they're allowed to be vulnerable, that we're all learning together, and that you're trying to grow as people. And it's trying to find that. And sometimes it doesn't go well. I've had that in teaching, where I've thought that I was helping someone who was really struggling by being really personal with them, and then they've thrown it back at me in front of other people, and I went, wow, okay, that really hurts. That's not great. Yeah. But I suppose they're the risks that you take. Sometimes you put yourself out there, you get a smack in the face for it. Other times you could make a massive difference for a number of people, and it's because you were brave enough to be vulnerable and to open up. And I think that's just part and parcel of anything, isn't it? You have to try and learn from it and take risks and hope that it outweighs the bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and sure, the risk is going to be there whether you're being authentic or not. Yeah. You might. There's always one. What about yourself?
Look, there is risk for everybody in leadership, being authentic and all that. But I think there is the extra layer. Then again, when, like what I said earlier, when you're a traveller woman, so for example, again, it's when you're going into these spaces and people knowing that you're a traveller woman. Then as well, again, it's the way people look at you. The way their perceptions and judgmental around you as well. So there is that risk attached, and you're still trying to deal with your daily, being a woman, being a traveller woman, being a mother, being a grandmother, and trying to be professional within these spaces, but yet not, so there is risks attached to that. Yeah. So, but I think it is important as well that for, when that has happened, self-care as well is very important. I think that's very important. You know what I mean? People need to be taking care of themselves as well, in particular when there is circumstances like that, because it does help you then to be strong, as I said earlier. But I think as well, it's important as well that around building trust as well with others as well. So that's important too. So but as I said, for a traveller woman, there is the extra layers. But as I said, for all leaders, there is risk for everybody, but there is the extra layer for a traveller woman. But I do think building trust is key as well.
You spoke about trust. It's one. Would you tell the audience a little bit more about how important trust is and how you foster it with your teams?
Yeah, I suppose it's very important in regards to trust within the community, and for ourselves and even with staff, or for anybody that in particular that you're trying to work with. I find it within my own role, I'm out there advocating, trying to say, for example, get employers on board. So I'll use that as an example. We're trying to get employers to work with us to take on traveller employees within the workplace. But in order for them to do that, it's important that, that they recognise the situation, the challenges that the community is coming from. They need to have mechanisms in place and how they can help overcome these challenges and barriers for community members that will be employed within their workplace. And it's also about them being more inclusive. But it's, I don't know, I'm going off the trail there now.
You're talking about trust with your teams, that it's so important that your team...
So again, I suppose for, when we're out with the employers, then building the trust is important because the community see that, but also with my own teams or with our own teams as well, trust is key. You know what I mean? Because if you don't have trust, then it is, and as a trust within our community is a big issue. And if you break the trust with the community, it takes a long time to try and restore it and get it back up again. It's because of where the community came from, are coming from themselves. They experience so many letdowns, experiencing racism and discrimination on a negative basis. But for me anyway, I'd always say trust is key, and it would be number one. And I do work with my team on that, and I think it is important, and it's core to the relationship.
Yeah. I love as well, Bridget, you're very clear at talking about leaders now are so, I know it's kind of a buzzword, intersectional, but I think we're really seeing what that means on the ground, because it's not just, you always refer to yourself as a woman, a traveller and a traveller woman. Like you've 3 identities, like you've 3 different ways that you walk in the world, which I think is really interesting, because we're so used to only dealing with one at a time but you're actually having to talk to different communities every time so every time you talk to another woman in the community, you're talking to a traveller, a woman, and a traveller woman. So there's layers there to build up. That must be tough.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, you know what I mean. As I said, like on a daily basis, you have that. It's constant. You know, but again, it's about being confident, and you know, I think it's being yourself again, and being able to engage as well with people, and building the trust with them and having the conversations help on that, you know what I'm saying? But it does add extra pressure on yourself, you know what I mean? It's like an extra load, but as I said, you just have to be professional and resilient, and you just have to try it and get on.
And resource yourself. Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who's sitting out here that wants to get a nose piercing and dye their hair, and they're literally thinking, No, but I mean, people are always curious to know, like, what would you say to someone who's down there going, I really want to be authentic. I know how I'm presenting it doesn't feel genuine when you're not doing it. We've talked about this a lot. So what would be your advice to them? Because it's a fear that you wouldn't, like that's what it's, that you would go against societal norms. So what would you say to somebody?
Like, I think in the first instance, maybe if you're just about to start something new, people, like, it is the world we live in, people make impressions on how you look, the community you're from, that sort of stuff. So maybe you'd be a bit hesitant at the start. But I feel like if you are brave enough to do it, and if not, maybe even wait a month or 2. But I just think, like, at the end of the day, you can walk into a room and, you know, you can look a certain way, you could be very, like, as a lesbian, you could be very overtly lesbian, and people might go, you know, you could dress a certain way, whatever it is. And I think sometimes I see that with people, that they might even hear my accent and I'll be joking and I'll be messing. But as soon as you get into the serious stuff and you are doing your job properly, their expression changes and they take you seriously, because you've proven to them, you know what you're talking about, you have a seat at that table for the right reason, and you are the best person to be in that seat. So at the end of the day, like, you could be denying to yourself who you are and hiding who you are, and it just makes you feel bad about yourself, and that impacts your confidence. And if you're not confident in yourself, you can't do the stuff on the other side. So actually, you're better off to wear what you want to wear, have your hair however you want to hair, have 3 nose piercings if you want. Be who you are, so that when you walk into any room, you feel comfortable and confident in yourself. Like, try not, like, we all do it, I think, a little bit, but try not to change your accent or any of those things. And if you are someone who, like, say, even with female leaders, like, if you want to talk about the emotional impact or talk about the heart, do that. Why shouldn't it be in the room? Why should we always talk about things in a very, like, individualised piece?
Tell them about the solace meeting.
I'm like, which one?
The chair, the lady at the start of the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
That was so good.
We had a steering committee meeting for a framework thing a while ago, and it was so lovely. There was a new lady there, Nessa, and she was chairing the meeting for the first time. And it was like the first time I'd ever sat in this very formal, serious meeting where the person didn't just say, okay, do a round of introductions and tell us who you are and where you're from. She asked us to tell us, why do we care about this issue? And what does it mean to you? And Nessa, she's amazing. So as we went around the room, not only did people introduce themselves and talk about, like, the statistics and everything else, but everybody really opened up with their heart, and it just changed the whole dynamic of the meeting. Everybody was very relaxed and connected, and then we continued on with the formal stuff around the policy and the issues and what we needed to change. But it felt like both the heart and the head were on the table and they were together, which is what it should be, because aren't we humans? And everything is connected.
It sounds like such a small move from competing for this is what I want to, collaborating, this is what we're trying to achieve, such a small...
And not thinking that you have to be a certain way. It's like, no, but you are there because you care, so show people that you care and tell them why. Because, like, if you're there, like, if you're trying to support, say, people with disabilities, like they want to know that you're sitting at the table because you care about people with disabilities.
Yeah.
And you mentioned this, won't go into details, Bridget, in case it's confidential, but an issue where someone was at a meeting with you before and they were there to support like traveller accommodation, but then outside of that meeting they were doing things to not help traveller accommodation. So it's like you shouldn't be in that room then. So I think that approach was really powerful because it actually allowed us to show that you care as part of it.
Yeah, I was really impressed because it was it wasn't one of our hippie organisations. It was like at a national level.
Yes, Nessa, she's
it.
going to be the chief people officer now in Busser, and she's amazing.
Oh, I saw her movie.
Yeah,
fantastic. And advice for anybody who's got some authenticity bubbling out of them, but don't know
I would
how
just
to.
say to them to be real, to be themselves, and not to change. Like I really don't think no one should change. I think it's important to stay true to themselves. You know, be themselves. Don't change your voice. Don't change your tone. Don't change your appearance in order to fit in. I think it's really important that you stay true to yourself. Just be your own natural self. You know what I mean? And be a leader yourself in your own authentic way. So that's the advice I would be given.
Yeah.
You know, and it's also important as well for anyone, you know, to say that, you know, that everyone's voice is important and everyone's story is important as well. So it is, you know, important to be real and just to be yourself. Yeah.
I would temper that slightly because you talked about self-awareness as well, and I think there is a line of like, be aware of your strengths and weaknesses, but don't apologise for the things that you've decided are yours. And I think one thing I'm hearing from both of you as well is both of you are really, really great at what you do. Like, I mean, you heard them go off on their, this is the party line, this is it. So know your stuff, and then whatever flavour you want to put on how it gets out there is kind of your own business. We always finish with, what's your best piece of leadership advice that you ever got or that you would give?
Surround yourself with people who are more intelligent than you. And don't be intimidated by them. Let them shine, because that, I think, is the biggest strength. Like, being vulnerable is good, and like you'll have moments where you feel insecure because you're like, oh God, I'm meant to be managing them, but they're all smarter than me. That's good. You'll learn from them. So like, exactly, surround yourself with people more intelligent than you, learn from them, and go with it. Like, be part of that.
Not just in work either.
Everywhere, yeah. Like
better people at the gym.
Better, yeah. Stand
They
beside
will
the
make you
person
work
lifting heavy
harder. You're
weights,
not
because then all of a sudden you're going to be like, I can keep up with you. It's so true.
Yeah. You give yourself a mark. I can beat them. They don't know you're there. That sounds creepy now. And what about you, Bridget? Best leadership advice?
Yeah, I suppose, look, again, as I said earlier, you know, I think it's important to people to be real, to be, you know, to be themselves, and again, it's about them leading the way, you know, and leading the way as leaders, but also bringing people along as well, and empowering and enabling others to be leaders as well. So that would be the advice that I would be giving.
Oh my gosh, there you go. 45 minutes, it flies, doesn't it? So you did amazing. Thank you for having such a genuinely vulnerable, what can be a vulnerable conversation to have, because it is hard to say, I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm going to keep making tea. So thank you so much. So at this point in the session, we actually just break, and that's what the tea and coffee is there for. And we ask you to connect with the speakers, connect with each other, connect with our team. Mairead and Ciara from the Wheel are here as well. If you've been thinking there's a question that you have to ask us, now is the time to corner us. And then we'll just come back for 5 minutes at the end to take questions from you guys. But in the meantime, I think that was an amazing conversation. And thank you so much to Derval and Bridget. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Now, you're done.